Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will learn Section 2 of Chapter 4, Tunnel Air Volume Regulation. With the development and change of production and the advancement and replacement of working phase, the tunnel air resistance, network structure, and required air volume are consistently changing, and it is required to adjust the air volume in time. From the perspective of regulating facilities, there are fans, jets, air windows, air circuits, and expanded ventilation sections. According to the regulation range, it can be divided into local air volume regulation and total air volume regulation. From the perspective of ventilation energy, it can be divided into energy increasing regulation, energy consumption regulation, and energy saving regulation. Local air volume regulation refers to the air volume regulation between working phases inside the tunnel. The adjustment methods include resistance increasing method, resistance reducing method, and auxiliary fan adjustment method. The resistance increasing regulation method is a regulation method that mainly increases the local resistance in the shaft and roadway by installing regulating air windows and other facilities in the tunnel, so as to reduce the air volume in the same channel as the tunnel or increase the air volume in associated channel. The main measures include 1. Adjusting the air window. 2. Temporary air circuit. 3. Air curtain conditioning device. The drag reduction regulation method is to take drag reduction measures in the tunnel through which the airflow passes, so as to reduce the ventilation resistance of the tunnel, thereby increasing the air volume in the same channel as the tunnel and reducing the air volume in the channel associated with the tunnel. Drag reduction regulation can reduce the energy consumption of ventilation, but it often needs to increase the project investment. The resistance reduction and adjustment method can reduce the total wind resistance of the tunnel and increase the tunnel air volume of the tunnel. However, the work value and the investment of the resistance reduction measures are generally large and the construction period is long. Therefore, it is generally used when the tunnel ventilation system is greatly modified. The main methods include 1. Expanding the ventilation section of the tunnel to reduce the resistance. 2. Reducing the friction resistance coefficient. 3. Removing the local resistance in the tunnel. 4. Exhibiting the parallel air path. 5. Shortening the total length of the airflow path. The energy increasing regulation method is to increase the air volume of local places by installing auxiliary fans or local fans and other equipment at appropriate places and by increasing the ventilation energy. Generally, the resistance volume of the branch with small resistance in the network is taken as the benchmark, and the fan is installed in the branch with large resistance. The pressure energy generated by the fan is used to overcome the excess resistance value of the large resistance branch. The energy increasing regulation method is applicable to the case where the resistance difference between two parallel branches is large. The main technical measures of the energy increasing regulation method are: 1. The energy increasing regulation method of the fan with the air wall, shown in Figure A. The energy increasing regulation method of the bypass fan, shown in Figure B. Characteristics of energy increasing regulation method. The energy increasing regulation method is relatively convenient in construction, can rapidly increase the branch air value, and can also reduce the energy consumption of the tunnel main fan. However, due to large equipment investment, large energy consumption of the fan, complicated safety management of the fan, and poor safety. It is generally only used in the boundary air and the meaning phase for the purpose of increasing wind. When the total air volume of the tunnel is insufficient or excessive, it is necessary to adjust the total air volume of the tunnel. Its essence is to adjust the air volume and pressure energy of the tunnel by adjusting the operating point of the main fan. The main methods adopted are: changing the working characteristics of the main fan, or changing the total wind resistance of the tunnel air network. Change the working characteristic of the main fan. The pressure energy characteristics of the main fan can be changed by changing the impeller speed of the main fan, the installation angle of the actual fan blades, and the angle of the centrifugal fan front gate blades, so as to achieve the purpose of adjusting the total air volume of the system where the fan is located. 1. Change the impeller speed of the main fan. This method is mainly used for the regulation of centrifugal fans. According to the law of proportionality for the centrifugal fans installed in the tunnel, when the wind resistance R of the tunnel air network is constant, the fan air volume Q is proportional to the first power of the rotation speed N, while the fan shaft power P is proportional to the third power of the rotation speed N, and its efficiency is basically unchanged. In the tunnel, how to change the speed of the fan is relative to the type of the fan, the transmission mode, the model of the drive motor, and so on. There are many methods, such as changing the transmission speed ratio between the drive motor and the fan, replacing the motor, and variable frequency speed regulation. 2. Change the installation angle of actual flow fan blades. The essence of this adjustment method is to change the characteristic curve of the fan, which is similar to the method of adjusting the impeller speed N of the centrifugal fan. Change the van angle of the centrifugal fan's front gate. For the centrifugal fan, changing the angle of its leading blade can also change the pressure energy characteristics of the fan, so as to achieve the purpose of changing the working conditions of the fan. Changing the total wind resistance of the tunnel air network. There are two common adjustment methods for changing tunnel air resistance characteristics. 1. Adjustment method of air tunnel gate. It is suitable for extra flow fan. If the radiating gate is installed in the fan tunnel, the total working air resistance of the fan can be easily changed by changing the opening size of the gate, so that the working air volume of the fan can be adjusted. The characteristic of this method is that it can only control the air volume of the fan and cannot save energy. The pressure energy characteristic curve of the centrifugal fan is relatively steep. When the total weight resistance increases or decreases, the air volume of the fan changes little. Therefore, the air tunnel gate adjustment method is usually not used. 2. Adjust the ventilation network of the main to reduce the total wind resistance of the tunnel. When the total air volume of the tunnel is insufficient, if the total air resistance of the tunnel can be reduced, not only the total air volume of the tunnel can be increased, but also the total resistance of the tunnel can be reduced. So as to achieve the objective of reducing resistance, increasing air volume, energy saving, and improving safety. Let's summarize the knowledge points learned in this chapter. In this chapter, we learned the concept, drawing steps, and requirements of tunnel ventilation network diagram, laws of air volume distribution, air volume balance law, energy balance law, network characteristic of series ventilation network and parallel ventilation network, adjustment method of tunnel air volume.